The Empire Within the Walls. Narrator, tense tone. Imagine a place where power isn't measured by badges or ranks, but by who controls a packet of powder. A place meant to strip men of everything. Yet somehow, an empire rose behind its own bars. This is Cook County Jail, the largest single-site jail in America. But behind its barbed wire walls lies a black market economy worth millions, fueled by addiction, fear, and corruption. Phones smuggled in through laundry trucks. Fentanyl hidden inside Bible pages. And inmates running operations as if they were free men on the outside. Tonight, we go deep inside Cook County's hidden drug empire. Before we start, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Blood and Justice, your window into the world's darkest cells. Now, let's step inside. The most dangerous mile in Chicago. Just outside Chicago's loop stands a massive complex of concrete and steel, 96 acres of cells, corridors, and chaos. The locals call it county. For decades, Cook County Jail has been the temporary home of gang leaders, carjackers, and men awaiting trial for murder. Every day, over 6,000 inmates move through its gates. Some stay a week. Others linger for years awaiting verdicts that never come. But somewhere within this crowded labyrinth, a different operation was growing. Corrections officers once believed the worst contraband was a razor blade or a cell phone. By 2018, they were finding heroin in shampoo bottles, synthetic marijuana in letters soaked in liquid K2, and pills stuffed inside legal paperwork. The lines between dealer and guard, criminal and employee, had blurred to dust. Inside every tier is a hierarchy: shot callers, runners, collectors, and mules. Drugs move cell to cell like currents beneath a river. Money flows through Cash App, Zelle, and Western Union accounts set up by girlfriends and mothers on the outside. In 2019, a federal investigation named Operation Savannah exposed just how deep it went, revealing a network that reached from the south side streets straight into the jail's core. The seeds of corruption. Cook County Jail faces overcrowding and staff shortages as Chicago crime rates soar. The story of the drug empire didn't begin in the 2010s. Its roots reach back to the 70s, when the jail first became a breeding ground for Chicago's street gangs. Back then, the vice lords, black disciples, and Latin kings were at war for territory across the city. When their leaders landed in Cook County awaiting trial, they brought their wars with them. The jail quickly split into colors, each tier belonging to a different set. For officers, the job was simple in theory: keep the peace. In reality, they were outnumbered and underpaid. A CO earning $40,000 a year was facing gang leaders controlling hundreds of thousands on the streets. Corruption was inevitable. All it took was a favor: a few extra minutes out of a cell, a sneak sandwich, a cigarette. Then came the smaller packages: a bag of weed, a cell phone, a pill bottle hidden in a uniform pocket. One former officer told investigators, "You don't wake up one day and decide to smuggle heroin. You get talked into it, slowly." By the early 2000s, Cook County had a problem it couldn't see, but could smell in the air, literally. Burnt synthetic K2 wafted through vents. Officers pretended not to notice when inmates were high but quiet. Quiet was good. Quiet meant no riots. But the real change came with technology. Contraband cell phones turned the jail into a command center. With a simple smartphone smuggled in through a food cart or hidden in a mattress, inmates could run their outside drug business with precision. Calls, texts, encrypted apps, all from inside. It was no longer about survival. It was about profit. The first pipeline. In 2012, an anonymous tip exposed what was called the first pipeline. A female CO was caught delivering Suboxone strips hidden beneath her wig to an inmate in Division 9. When questioned, she confessed she'd been doing for months, earning $500 per delivery. Her confession opened a door to something bigger. Each delivery she made was part of the schedule, organized by inmates on different tiers using cell phones and coded language. Example: send the book to the library Friday. Make sure the page is highlighted. Book meant a Bible with drugs inside. Library meant the laundry cart. The guards called it a Bible drop. The most brilliant part? They used religious items and legal mail. Two things guards were legally forbidden to inspect without warrants: the economy of addiction. Inside the jail, drugs became a currency. A single Suboxone strip, worth $3 on the street, sold for $100 behind bars. Debts were paid with commissary snacks, favors, or violence. When a man couldn't pay, his cellmate did, or someone bled. One investigator later said, "We weren't just looking at drug use. We were looking at a shadow economy bigger than the official budget." Then came COVID-19. Visitation halted. Inspections tightened. But instead of killing the trade, it made it smarter. Packages soaked in liquid K2 slipped through the mail. Drugs came on paper, not in bags. A simple handwritten letter could get an entire tier high. By 2020, Cook County was no longer just a jail. It was a micro-city with its own laws, currency, and corporations of crime. And the men who ran it did so from their cells. The supply chain of the impossible. Every empire depends on one thing: a supply line. Even behind concrete walls, Cook County's drug trade needed couriers, people willing to risk everything to keep the flow alive. What investigators later uncovered would sound absurd if it weren't so meticulously real. Drugs didn't fall from the sky. They walked through the front gate. The gatekeepers. It started small, with a handful of guards smuggling cigarettes. Then came cannabis rolled inside pen tubes. By 2015, full networks of correctional officers were acting as gatekeepers of the underground economy. A senior CO explained under oath, "They don't ask you to bring in a pound. They ask for a favor, one time. Then they got you." Once a guard crossed that line, there was no going back. Inmates recorded every delivery, every transaction, every mistake. Blackmail was the leash that held their loyalty. A single officer could make thousands in one weekend, a dangerous temptation for a worker earning just above the poverty line. But the most ingenious smugglers weren't guards. They were contractors. The contractor's loophole. Maintenance workers, kitchen staff, and delivery drivers entered Cook County daily, often without full searches. Security focused on inmates, not outsiders. A 2020 internal report found that 1 in 5 contractor vehicles bypassed full inspection due to time constraints. That gap became the drug empire's highway. One kitchen employee later confessed to taping Suboxone strips beneath trays of raw chicken destined for Division 10. Another hid meth inside condiment packets, sealed in commercial boxes. When officers checked random samples, nothing appeared off, the rest passed untouched. And then came the mail. Letters from nowhere. In the jail's mailroom, thousands of letters arrived daily. Love notes, legal paperwork. Postcards from families praying for redemption. But buried among them are chemical weapons disguised as words. K2, a synthetic cannabinoid, can be liquefied and painted onto paper. When inmates smoke it, the effects mimic a violent high. Paranoia, seizures, sometimes death. By 2018, the technique became widespread. One officer described the scene. You'd see 3 guys reading a letter, then all of them collapsing minutes later. The paper itself was a drug. Authorities tried everything: blacklights, dogs, chemical swabs. But the trade adapted. They began using ink patterns and hidden codes to track shipments, disguised Bible verses that identified which batch came from which smuggler. Even religious mail wasn't immune. Pastors and volunteer chaplains unknowingly delivered envelopes laced with narcotics, believing they were bringing the word of God. And when mail tightened up, the pipeline simply evolved again. The medical loophole. Inmates with opioid addictions were allowed to receive Suboxone under medical supervision, but the program, meant to rehabilitate, became another vein of profit. Some prisoners faked addiction to gain prescriptions. Others bribed medical staff to hand over the strips directly. A nurse later admitted she was paid in cash, slipped into her glove by an inmate during rounds. Soon, even legitimate doses were being cut, diluted, and resold. A strip that cost pennies under Medicaid now sold for $100. The irony: the state was funding its own black market. The system's cracks were now gaping wounds. Guards feared for their lives. Inmates overdosed weekly, and investigators whispered that Cook County was no longer a jail. It was a cartel. The empire's accounting. How do you launder money when you're behind bars? With creativity and girlfriends. Outside women, often loyal partners or family, manage electronic payment accounts. Cash App, Zelle, even prepaid visas. Inmates call them banks. Each gang's accountant kept lists of who owed what, updated daily through smuggled phones. One intercepted text read, $500 to Keisha Z, Division 9. Laundry job equals okay. Laundry job was code for a completed drug delivery. Federal agents later traced over $1.2 million moving through civilian accounts linked to Cook County inmates between 2017 and 2021. And that was just what they could prove. The rest vanished into prepaid cards and crypto wallets. This wasn't chaos. It was infrastructure. It had supply chains, quality control, logistics, distribution, and finance. It was, by every definition, a business. The invisible CEOs. At the top sat the shot callers. They didn't touch the drugs. They didn't need to. Their power came from influence. Each major gang had one or two CEOs, older inmates serving long sentences but still commanding loyalty. They resolved disputes, set prices, and even scheduled deliveries between divisions to avoid violence. A former inmate said, if two tiers fought, business stopped. So they negotiated peace. Money keeps men quiet. The CEOs issued orders through coded phone calls to girlfriends or sisters on the outside. Those women coordinated deliveries with corrupt staff and ensured money flowed back inside via commissary credits or third-party accounts. It was a fully integrated narcotics network, operating with more discipline than many legitimate corporations. When the walls bled. But with every empire comes chaos. Overdoses skyrocketed. Between 2018 and 2020, Cook County logged nearly 200 drug-related incidents, from intoxication to death. Inmates described men foaming at the mouth after smoking pages from Bibles. Others saw officers carrying out bodies before breakfast. One survivor recalled, it's like Russian roulette. You don't know what's on that paper, but you hit it anyway. The guards called these days the bleeding mornings. When detox symptoms spread across tiers, tempers exploded. Fights broke out over imaginary debts. Some prisoners were attacked in their sleep for owing half a strip, and still shipments kept coming. The empire had reached self-sufficiency, a cycle of addiction feeding profit. Profit buying silence, silence enabling more smuggling. The federal eye opens. In 2019, whispers of an ongoing operation reached the FBI Chicago field office. They called Operation Savannah. Its mission: follow the money, expose the pipeline, dismantle the empire. For the first time, undercover agents posed as corrupt contractors and buyers. Hidden cameras were installed in laundry areas and mailrooms. Every suspicious package was logged and tested. Over months, the investigation revealed a map of complicity, connecting low-level COs, maintenance workers, and even 2 medical staff members of the trade. But the real shock came when they discovered one of the highest-ranking gang leaders was directing shipments from a maximum security segregation cell. He hadn't stepped outside his door in a year. Yet drugs moved on his word. His orders went out through voice notes hidden in recorded jail phone calls, disguised as love messages to his girlfriend. I'm Mr. Sunshine. Bring my flowers Friday. Flowers meant K2, the code breakers. When agents finally decrypted the slang, they realized the inmates had created their own linguistic economy, a living code. Books meant Bibles. Chickens meant Suboxone. Shows meant shifts with corrupt guards. And Sunday dinner meant the delivery had succeeded. But there was one word they couldn't break for months. Savannah. They eventually learned it referred to the entire operation, named after an inmate's daughter. An innocent child whose name became the brand of a criminal empire. The fall begins. In 2021, the bus came down hard. Federal agents stormed the facility, arresting multiple staff members and outside accomplices. Hundreds of phones were seized, dozens of inmates indicted. The headlines screamed, Cook County Jail officers accused in massive drug smuggling scheme. Yet inside the walls, nothing really changed. The same hierarchy reformed within weeks. New runners replaced the old. New slang replaced Savannah. because you can arrest people, but you can't arrest addiction. Cook County wasn't fighting criminals. It was fighting a culture, one built on survival, power, and profit. And the deeper investigators dug, the more they realized the empire wasn't just built by inmates. It was being protected by people in uniform. The dealers in uniform. They wear the badge. They carry the keys. They're supposed to keep order. But in Cook County Jail, some officers weren't guarding the empire. They were running it. The breaking point. Every CO starts the same. Training videos, promises of honor, warnings about contraband. But within months, reality hits. Long hours, overcrowded tiers, inmates screaming all night, and a paycheck that barely covers rent. One veteran officer described it bluntly. You either quit, go numb, or find a way to make it worth it. When gangs noticed which guard were struggling, divorces, debt, sick kids, they offered solutions. Small favors first. Let my cousin call his mom. Slip this envelope through mail. Easy, harmless. Then the envelope came with $500 inside. The two-way street. Some officers rationalized it as compensation. Others said, they'd do it with or without me. But the relationship went both ways. Guards gained respect, protection, even status. Inmates gained immunity. A CO who could smuggle phones or drugs became more valuable than a gang lieutenant. A confidential 2021 report detailed over 70 staff-related contraband incidents in just 1 year. Most involved routine items, phones, chargers, Suboxone, but a few contained cocaine and fentanyl. They weren't smuggling in fear. They were competing for opportunity. The hierarchy of corruption. Inside the empire, dirty staff had ranks too. Level 1, runners. New or low-rank COs who ferried small items. Level 2, facilitators. Veteran officers who coordinated drop schedules, distracted supervisors, or adjusted rosters to hide deliveries. Level 3, shields, administrators and sergeants who ensured certain searches were skipped, surveillance cameras malfunctioned, or logs disappeared. One whistleblower recalled, if a camera goes dark for 2 minutes, that's not an accident. That's payroll time. The operation thrived because its protectors were the same people investigating it. The luxury of silence. The code among guards was simple. Don't snitch. Reporting another CO could make you a target, not from inmates, but from your own. Whistleblowers found their tires slashed, lockers emptied, transfers denied. Even honest officers stayed quiet. A female CO who later testified said, you could smell the weed on them, see inmates high, but no one said a word. We were just trying to go home alive. In that silence, loyalty became currency, and the jail descended into organized complicity. The night shift drop. Every Friday at midnight, a pattern unfolded. A food delivery truck arrived at Division 9. Boxes unloaded. A CO signed papers, wheeled them in. Inside one box, taped beneath the false bottom, sat small bags of Suboxone, weed, and K2. The shipment was rerouted to storage, where trusted inmates handled the rest. When investigators later reviewed footage, the entire drop lasted less than 90 seconds. Nobody blinked, because every man in that hallway was paid. By dawn, the contraband had vanished into cells. The empire reset for another week, the price of loyalty. Not every officer joined willingly. Some were coerced, threatened through coded messages about family members, cars, or home addresses leaked online. One guard quit after finding his son's school photo slid under his locker door. Another discovered a dead pigeon, a gang warning, taped to his windshield. When fear and greed mix, morality dissolves fast. The line between victim and criminal became impossible to see. The Inmates Protection Plan. Dirty COs weren't just couriers, they were shields. When inspections came, they tipped inmates off. When lockdowns hit, they whispered which cells would be searched. In return, inmates ensured those officers were never attacked. Anyone who disrespected their guard faced swift punishment. It was prison symbiosis, two predators keeping each other fed. One inmate later told an interviewer, "You touch that guard, you touch us." He feed in the whole floor. Inside Cook County, Protection didn't come from policy. It came from profit. The body cam scandal. In 2022, the sheriff's office issued new body cams for certain divisions, an attempt to monitor staff conduct. Within months, footage surfaced online showing guards disabling their cameras mid-shift or accidentally covering the lens with tape. When asked why, one officer said, "No one wants Big Brother watching when you're breaking rules to survive." Investigators discovered entire shifts where multiple cameras mysteriously lost power simultaneously. Those nights coincided with spikes in contraband seizures the next morning. The body cams meant to stop corruption became timestamps for it. The messenger inside. Amid the rot, one anonymous officer decided to act. He began secretly documenting deliveries, photographing coded notes, and recording whispered deals in stairwells. He called himself the messenger. Over 3 months, his logs detailed 22 transactions involving staff and inmates. He sent the data to an external task force, Operation Savannah. When his identity leaked, his car was burned outside his apartment. He survived but left the job. His last message to investigators read, "You can't fix a system that rewards silence." The double life. Some COs live contradictory lives. Strict disciplinarians by day, traffickers by night. They attended church, coached Little League, posted family photos online. Meanwhile, they carried fentanyl through employee entrances. The guilt ate some alive. One confessed after a near-fatal overdose of his own, sobbing, "I thought I was helping them cope. I didn't know I was burying them." Others felt invincible. They saw themselves not as criminals, but entrepreneurs exploiting a broken system. One bragged on a seized phone recording, "We all hustling. Only difference is, mine got a badge." The psychology of corruption. Corruption doesn't start with crime. It starts with exhaustion. When the job crushes your spirit, small compromises feel like survival. And inside Cook County, compromise became culture. Every guard faced a choice. Enforce rules and be hated, or bend them and be rich, or at least safe. Those who resisted the temptation often quit. Those who stayed learned to adapt. By 2020, the corrupt had outlasted the clean. And so, the empire's veins pulsed not through inmate hands, but through the wrists that once held the keys. The bus that changed nothing. In late 2021, a sting operation caught 7 officers smuggling drugs during controlled deliveries. They were arrested, charged, and paraded before cameras. Headlines called a victory. But inside the jail, inmates barely reacted. Within days, replacements filled their posts. The black market never paused. Because Cook County's empire wasn't built on individuals. It was built on systems. Each man caught was just a brick replaced by another. The sound of denial. Sheriff spokesperson at the podium. These are isolated incidents. The majority of our staff are hard-working professionals. He wasn't wrong. Most officers weren't corrupt. But the few who had outsized impact, poisoning the system from within. Behind the scenes, honest COs whispered that investigations were shallow. One told reporters off record, "They only catch the sloppy ones. The smart ones retire clean." The empire wasn't hidden anymore. It was institutionalized. The cost of integrity. Those who tried to fight back paid dearly. A female sergeant who refused to falsify logs found herself reassigned to the most violent block. Her tires slashed, threats in her mailbox. She later said in a civil suit, "It's easier to join them than stop them, but I couldn't." Her case vanished in bureaucratic limbo. Her warning didn't. The empire's true face. By now, the jail's internal ecosystem mirrored Chicago's streets. Gangs, cartels, and crooked officials all feeding from the same trough. Addicts kept buying. Guards kept selling. The administration kept denying. Cook County's hidden drug empire wasn't a myth. It was a natural evolution of neglect. When a system designed to punish begins to profit from pain, the walls themselves become dealers. And the next stage of the story shows how language, loyalty, and coded brotherhood transformed Cook County from a jail into a living syndicate. The empire never sleeps. In the end, Cook County's story isn't just about drugs. It's about power. Power that doesn't die when the lights go out. It just finds another way in. Behind every locked door is a deal waiting to happen. And behind every badge, a choice between duty and desire. Empires don't need sunlight to grow. Sometimes all they need is a shadow. If you found this story as haunting as we did, like, share, and subscribe to Blood and Justice, where we expose the hidden worlds most people never get to see. Until next time, remember, in Cook County, the walls don't just hold men, they hold secrets.